You cannot reach your full potential, your full human potential, if you're not reading. If you're not growing and learning every single day, we'll never reach the version of ourselves that we're trying to attain. There are 4 books that I think have changed my life. 4 that go back, and they're not something that are just recent books. And this is so far. I think that when I read every single day, like I do, there may be something prolific or extremely imperative or important to me in the future as well. But these 4 books also abide by my high performance life: love, impact, faith, energy. They fall into those categories. And I love that, because sharing with you these books today is gonna make a difference. Number 1, I'm gonna start with love. And I tell the story of first reading The 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. What I love about this book is it focuses on not only how you feel loved, but how your partner needs to feel loved, and how so uniquely different that can be. And I remember the story so well because when we bought our first house, my wife and I, the couple that we bought the house from gave us this book and told us to read the book and that it would change our marriage and change our lives. And we laughed at them. We got in the car. We were literally in our early 20s. And we were like, yeah, we're going to read a book and it's going to change our marriage and change our lives. And fast forward, we have been living there for 5-6 years. We have a 3-year-old and a very, very newborn, colicky, second-born child on the way to my wife's cousin's wedding in Northern Virginia. We're stuck in traffic. The windows are down. The baby's screaming. And I had downloaded the book to be able to listen to on the ride. And I kept trying to stop long enough for us to have a pause to listen to it. And finally we looked at each other and we were like, we need this book. Play this book. And you know why we needed it? Because we were both loving each other, but we weren't showing the love that we needed to maybe in that moment, in that stressful time in our lives. And this book helped us identify how we feel loved and how we show love. It's something we refer back to in our lives. And the 5 Love Languages are a great book for people to understand both about how they function and how loving somebody else can matter to them and how that person needs it. And we listened to that book all the way up and all the way back, and we referred to that many, many times in our lives. So life-changing moment, life-changing book. I'm still married. I have great children, and that colicky kid is an awesome kid today. But at the end of the day, that was a moment of a book that really changed my life. Number 2 is impact. And I think Think and Grow Rich is the greatest impact example that exists. When I use the word impact, I mean everything from your work, your wealth, your daily doing. What do you do? And when you think about Think and Grow Rich, it's really about success in all facets of your life. But it's often referred to as the #1 business book ever written. And it was written in 1937 by Napoleon Hill, and it's an absolute anomaly in that he just researched the men who built America, the Fords, the Edisons, the Rockefellers. Whether you like them or not, they did successful things that really built an entire industry, things we still use and do today. And he noticed, after studying them for decades, what the commonalities were in each of them. And he wrote a book about it. And if you haven't taken the time to read it, and if you have taken the time to read it and you haven't read it again, you're missing out, because each time you read it, you realize there's something more powerful. I often listen to the chapter on persistence, because everything in life, if you persist enough, is right around the corner. But sometimes we just don't work hard enough for it. And I love the book. I love the mentality. I feel like when I listened to this book, it was also about the time I listened to it on Audible. I read it years earlier. I still actually listen to it all the time now. I just listened to the first chapter last week on a walk. It's something that I try to go back to all the time. And when I say life-changing, it's something that you can go back to and be a part of at different parts of your life that will mean different things to you. There are times where certain chapters mean more to me than the chapter that meant the most at the time that I first read it. So if you are a high performer, if you want to make an impact in any capacity, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is mandatory. Okay, next is faith, and it's a no-brainer. For me, it's the Bible. It's something that my faith has always been something that's extremely important to me. I grew up in Catholic school. I went to church every Sunday. My parents, my grandparents always instilled in me a tradition, a culture that was built around faith. And ultimately, it took the pandemic for me to dive into the depth of reading the entire Bible. It took the ability for me to feel completely out of control to start every single day with reading a chapter in the Bible. And I read through the entire Bible through a 90-day timeline adventure. Then I went back through and read through the entire Bible. And now I'm rereading different chapters at different times. And I read scripture every single morning. It's how I start my day. I cannot believe that I didn't do this earlier in my career, earlier in my life. How I have functioned prior to reading in the depths that I read today, and how pertinent the things that were written so far ago were and are to my life today are powerful. It's life-changing for me. And it's not just the life-changing attributes I knew existed. I've always read parts of the Bible, but getting into actually reading all the way through it changed the whole dynamic to me. It gave me a feeling of a superpower, that I could continue to go back to something much like Think and Grow Rich, but on a much greater scale, not just for business or life, but for all of life, all of relationships, all the things that I believe. That faithful part of my life was extremely empowering. And I find it to be the root, the head root to everything that I do today. So hopefully you take the time to start. And I love the 90-day timelines. I love the ability to read through the storyline. See, when you read a storyline, it makes a lot more sense versus just reading chapter by chapter. And then going back and filling in the gaps made it so much easier to actually make it through. So I'll go deeper on another video about that because it's so much more involved, but it's an awesome part, and I definitely think you should read this book. It's one that you've all heard of, and if you haven't read it, you're missing out. The last is energy. So for me, energy can mean anything. Energy can mean health, it can mean fitness, it can be nutritious, it could be every level of anything that provides you energy. But one of the most important things to me is mindset. A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl was the best book I've ever read on mindset. And Viktor Frankl, through multiple different concentration camps, has everything he's ever worked for, everything he's ever believed in, every person he's loved, stripped away from him, and he has absolutely nothing. But he realizes in a moment of having everything gone that there's still some things he can control, like how he receives information, how he receives the response of which he has when someone does or says something to him. Seeing something joyful, like the moving of a branch behind bars with everything stripped away from you, your dignity, everything. I can't even imagine, but that book is so powerful for so many reasons beyond what I'm mentioning today. But when it comes to mindset, nothing is better than watching someone come to the conclusion that they can control their own destiny. They can actually be in control of receiving how the world sees them and how they want to see the world. That's knowing that you are a victor, not a victim. It's amazing to me. And for me, that's the energy that it starts with. The energy of mindset is where great health, great fitness, great everything begins. So for me, that book completes the 4-pack that you have to read. And by the way, just to do this video, I had to really think hard because I've read so much. And there's new books that have made impact in my life. And there's older books that have made a great impact. It's not just one thing, but it's how it affects your story that matters. How does a book affect your story? What book have you read that changed the trajectory of your life? What book are you reading continuously in your life that you go back to? I'd love to know. I'd love to learn from you. I've done videos like this in the past, and people have commented below on what they're reading, and if I've never read it, I read it. It's impactful because what makes my life high performance, what makes me function at my maximum capacity, what helps me live to the best version of myself is my version. And I'm sharing it with you, hoping that you like, you share, and you give this to somebody else who might need to hear it. But I always want to learn from you too. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and make sure you share it with somebody else. We love that you're watching the videos. Thank you.